the original ones. We've made more since then, but we actually had a plug here so people could unplug so the wire wouldn't get twisted. But it just came unplugged too often, and people wouldn't notice, and they'd be playing and they wouldn't actually realize that they're not even plugged in, which was also funny. But so we sewed it together in the end. But this is just a ribbon cable here with like 14 inputs, and we're only using like 10 of them, I think, because there's 8 buttons plus a VCC plus a 5-volt. Yeah, so the VCC goes to one whole side of the neoprene. It's actually double layered here. And then, so the VCC wire goes, and then there's a big patch of conductive fabric covering all this space. And then on the other side, there's little patches with the buttons, and then just like Susie showed us yesterday with the felt and the hole in the middle, and then the 2 conductive fabrics, and then you have just an on-off switch. So it's super simple, and it works really well. We were amazed too. And actually, for this version, we also didn't even use conductive thread or anything. It's really just wires soldered here to a perf board, and then soldered to thinner wires that go to each of the buttons. And we just took off the isolation from the wires, spliced the individual little ones, and then there's this thing called interfacing. It's basically a heat glue, and it's made for fabric. So you have a sheet of wax paper, and you'll put the interfacing on top of some fabric, put the wax paper on top, you iron it, and it will fuse it to the fabric, and then you can pull off the wax paper, and then you can put this fabric to another fabric, iron on that, and then you'll have them stuck together. And this fusing is actually even quite stretchy, so you can then stretch it, and it doesn't like come unglued. So that's how we glued the conductive fabric, and we would just put this spliced wire in between the conductive fabric and the neoprene. And amazingly, it was a good connection. Even though there's glue in between, it melts enough around it, and there's enough direct connection between the conductive fabric and the wire. That makes sense. Then for later versions, because this broke a few times, and for later versions we decided to, so the wire goes directly to the button, and then we sew around the buttons, and this sewing over the wire, we were scared that we would be damaging the wire. And so here we wanted to use, later on we discovered conductive thread, and we decided, so this is a little patch of the conductive fabric that's been glued onto the neoprene. And then we sewed with conductive thread to a bit further away, so it would be kind of outside of the button area. And then here we sewed with the same piece of, you can like dive into the neoprene here, so it can actually go in between because it's got a thickness to it. That's why you don't see it, but this piece of thread that's sewn here is going in, and it's here. And then it's sewn to a piece of wire, and there's this nice thing called stretchy fabric glue, which we use to isolate it, just here, and also so it doesn't come undone. Pass this around. And then, yeah, this is just inside the box. It's a regular PlayStation controller, where you can just, with a multimeter, very easily figure out which buttons you're connected to here, to these. They even have nice soldering points on some of the controllers that you buy and open up. And then they all go. We have a little plug here, so actually plug it. Yeah, and there's 8 buttons, so there's 8. Actually, the black ones are, I think, up, down, left, right. The red ones are X, square, circle, triangle, and the blue is probably VCC or start and select. We also have. Yeah. If anyone's interested, maybe I won't pass this around, but you can come up and have a look.